Beyond this door is uncharted territory. Beyond this door you will experience otherness of which you cannot fathom. Are you who you say you are? Or are you an imposter? Is your identity born or made? Or are you something else altogether? Welcome to the Who Goes There Film Festival. The very essence of filmmaking is impersonation. Directors, actors, and crew alike create imaginary pieces of entertainment which we as audiences enjoy. But what happens when impersonation is used to drive a film forward? Who can you trust on screen? Who is who they say they are, and who is not? We here at WGT want to invite you to our film festival and watch 11 films related to the core idea of impersonation.
I'm not you. You're me. No shit.
Why impersonation, you ask? Because beyond the speculation that comes with questioning one's identity, we here at WGT want to discuss the varying degrees of impersonation. To do this, we've grouped these 11 films hand-picked into tiers. The first tier, called Doubles, deals with movies in which a double or look-alike is heavily involved, and also in the case of two other films, a case of mistaken identity. The second tier, Sex, deals with the psychosexual elements that are on display in dealing with impersonation. And the final tier will be called Beyond, where the impersonation in question is more fantastical and potentially supernatural. In our first tier, titled Doubles, the four films we wish to discuss are Vertigo, Mr. Klein, North by Northwest, and Cage Amusha. Vertigo, our headliner film for the festival, deals with a PI who suffers from an imposter syndrome as he is unable to properly do his job while also dealing with the imposter of his client's wife. Both Mr. Klein and North by Northwest deal with men on the run from mistaken identities. But whereas in Mr. Klein the character suffers the same fate as those he's conned, North by Northwest shares more in common with Akira Kurosawa's Cage Amusha, where the protagonist takes up the mantle and identity of those they have been identified as by others, and becomes more heroic and self-sacrificing as a result.
It's us.
In our second tier, titled Sex, we have selected 3 films that best represent this category: Rebecca, Psycho, and The Skin I Live In. The first film, Rebecca, deals with a newlywed wife who, in a bid to win the favor of both her husband and his new housekeeper, dresses up in his former wife's clothing, the titular Rebecca, to disastrous results. And while the specter of Rebecca hangs over the household, the newlywed wife cannot hide the freedom she gains in wearing another woman's clothes. But speaking of wearing another one's clothes, no list of impersonations is complete without the mention of Hitchcock's Psycho. In this, Norman Bates is both perpetrator and victim all at once, as his issues with his own identity is a perfect showcase of this category given the psychosexual nature of the film and Norman's penchant for dressing as his mother and murdering people. But this psychosexual identity crisis is taken up several notches in Pedro Almodovar's The Skin I Live In. Given the horrific unwanted sexual transitions some characters are forced to endure throughout the film, as well as their subsequent identity crises, we can think of no film with a more fitting end to this tier.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
In our final tier, titled Beyond, the 4 films we have chosen that best represents the literal transformation of characters are as follows: The Prestige, The Thing, Possession, and Get Out. The Prestige expertly combines elements of our first category, Doubles, and this current tier to create a twisty narrative of magician one-upmanship. In it, 2 magicians battle each other using both body doubles and something more, in an effort to be the best. Little do they know that becoming the best comes at a price. In John Carpenter's The Thing, like its 1950s adaptation before it, the scientists of Outpost 31 are confronted with a shape-shifting alien that causes these grown men to question one another, which eventually leads to both destruction and distrust all around, a fitting metaphor for the ongoing Cold War that surrounded both films. Possession, however, dials back the destruction from a facility to a dissolving marriage. In this, a couple unhappy with said marriage finds that as it implodes around them, they are confronted with literal and unexplainable doppelgangers that represent who they used to be and how they don't recognize themselves in each other anymore. But finally, to close out the festival and this category alike, we have Jordan Peele's Get Out. For obvious reasons, we chose this because of the Armitage's literal body-swapping antics, but also because of the impersonation of racism on display. In Get Out, the Armitages are not your typical white, racial-hurling racists, but rather your friend, who would rather appropriate your culture, your body, your sex, and your very existence, rather than understand what it means to be black. I want to thank you all for watching my video, and I hope to see you at the Who Goes There Film Festival. Until then, I'll just be waiting here to see what happens. Until then, good day.